Hello. So this is the lecture that you guys missed part of on Wednesday that preceded the activity where you were supposed to find the symbiotic relationships using emojis. It looks like I'm disconnected. Okay, sorry about that little hiccup. Okay, so we were learning about interactions of populations and how they shape an ecosystem. Here is your vocabulary. Again, this is all in that document that is labeled Ecology Vocabulary for Chapter 13. So you'll have all of these words in there and their definitions. Okay, so the first thing that we need to talk about is the difference between living and non-living things. The prefix bio means living. So if something's biotic, it means it's a living thing. In science, whenever we put an A in front of a word, it means not or non, whatever that is. So in this case, abiotic means that it's non-living. It's important to understand that abiotic is not the same thing as dead, because dead things were once living. One thing I forgot to mention at the beginning of this presentation is that I created an assignment in Canvas and it looks like a quiz. It's called Interaction of Populations, I believe. I'm looking at that right now. If you look in Canvas under your dashboard where all your buttons are, and you click on, under my class, of course, yeah, population interactions, it looks like a quiz. It's not really a quiz, it's guided notes. So click on that and you can fill that out as we go through the lecture. Okay, so a habitat is an area where an organism lives, and we're going to look at some examples of some habitats here. So here's some giraffes, and they live in the African savanna. What's important to remember about a habitat is that a habitat can be occupied by more than one organism. So while giraffes live in the savanna, so do things like gazelles and lions and cheetahs and hyenas. These all live also in the African savanna. Here we have a jaguar. Jaguars live in rainforests typically, and other organisms also live in this jungle area with them. Things like tapirs and tamarins, which are small monkeys, all varieties of snakes and insects and other birds, they all also live in this habitat with the jaguar. Here we have a grizzly bear. He lives in the forest. And of course, lots and lots of other organisms live in the forest. You have everything from birds and other mammals and insects, lots of different kinds of plants. This is an orca, also known as a killer whale. And he spends most of his time in the Arctic Ocean, but he does also travel down the coast to California, and he migrates. There's obviously so many organisms that live in the ocean. You have other whales, sharks, so many varieties of fish, and then even some semi-aquatic animals like sea lions and seals and otters and walruses. So again, he can share his habitat. This is a river otter. River otters live all over the United States. They are pretty common here in Oklahoma as well. And they, of course, live with lots of other organisms. They share that river. They share it with turtles and fish and snakes and birds, other mammals like raccoons, of course. So he definitely is able to share his habitat. So next, the term that you need to know is niche. A niche is the full range of physical and biological conditions an organism lives in and the way he lives it. So we're going to look at some of those things. What is a niche? For these giraffes, we have that they are adapted to their climate. That's a really important advantage for them. And also because of their long necks, they have a feeding niche where they're able to reach the leaves on the highest trees. Other organisms Other organisms that rely on grasses for their diet don't have this advantage. What about our jaguar? What's his niche? Well, he is specially adapted to not only blend into his environment, but his paws are extra wide and he can retract his claws so he can walk silently through the forest. He doesn't crack a twig, he doesn't rustle a leaf. Also, the times that he hunts, this word diurnal, di means two, and urnal is a Greek root word that means time of day. So this means that he hunts at dawn and he hunts at dusk. Other predators might hunt during the night or during the afternoon time, so he only hunts during certain times of the day. That's his niche. That's his advantage to living in that environment. Also, he tends to be nocturnal, so because he's active at night, he sleeps during the day, also avoiding competition with other large predators in the jungle. Next, we have the grizzly bear. He's an omnivore. This has obvious advantages. When hunting is difficult, he can always forage plants, and when the plants are unavailable, he can always hunt. Also, he can walk up on a tasty carcass every now and then, and he's able to eat that as well. He also hibernates through the winter, which means that he's avoiding the roughest time of the year so far as finding food is concerned, and his coat changes colors with the season, so he's able to blend it with his surroundings, whether he doesn't want to be seen by other animals or whether he's going to try to do some hunting himself. The orca. Orcas are incredibly intelligent. One of the niche adaptations that orcas have is that they live in family pods. These pods can be anywhere from 8 to 20 individuals, and they work as a team. They have a very advanced communication method, and they're able to coordinate hunting and distribution of resources, so they can have very complicated hunting strategies. They swim differently than a whale. Instead, they swim more like a dolphin, which makes them a faster swimmer. So they're able to hunt down larger prey, and they're also able to swim longer distances. This otter's special niche is that he's a carnivore, so he's not competing with other mammals for vegetable resources. He can also withstand very cold water because he has a specialized layer of fat that keeps him warm, and his actual hair follicles trap air so that the water never actually touches his skin. So when he comes out of the water, only the top layer of his fur is wet. And also he's learned to use tools, so he can get an organism that has a hard shell like a clam and use a rock and bash it open to get to the meat inside, rather than having to stalk and ambush mobile prey. So here's some more terms that you need to know that have to do with community interactions. You have competition, which is when organisms compete with one another for resources. In this case, you can see that the lion is chasing away the hyena. More than likely, the ladies of his pride had just hunted down a gazelle or something, and they're all resting after chasing it down. And the hyena thought he was going to get an easy meal, but here comes the lion to chase him off. Here you can see that these lions are enjoying a tasty wildebeest. This is called predation. It's the act of catching prey. Here you can see symbiosis. This is a warthog and some meerkats. The meerkats are cleaning all of the insects off of the warthog, and they also provide the warthog with an early warning system when predators are coming. And the warthog has a mean, nasty attitude and razor-sharp tusks. He is one of the most dangerous animals on the savannah. Most predators won't even try to hunt them down. They're just too dangerous. So the meerkats get protection and the warthog gets cleaned. Okay, so here's the point in your quiz that isn't a quiz, it's really notes where I want you to type something. It says that competition, it asks you to define competition. Please do not copy what I have written here. I want you to use your own words to describe it. It's when organisms of the same or different species compete for a resource. Say that any way you want aside from copying mine. I want to clarify that a resource is any necessity of life. It can be water, nutrients, mates. You also need to know this term. It's the competitive exclusion principle, which means that no two species can occupy the same niche in the same habitat at the same time. That should make common sense, because if animals are competing for the same resource, one is going to be more successful than the other, and the other species will die out. Predation, again, I would like you to please define this in your own words. Do not copy mine. Predation is when one organism captures and feeds upon another. You do not need to list the examples. Symbiosis literally means living together. And what it is a close, often long-lasting relationship between organisms. There are three basic types. The first is mutualism, and this is when both species benefits from the arrangement. There is commensalism, where one benefits and the other is unaffected, and parasitism, where one benefits and the other is harmed. In your quiz, it isn't a quiz. For each of the following examples, I want you to type in which type of symbiosis you believe is occurring in the pictures. So here is our warthog and our meerkats again. As I told you before, the meerkats get protection because the warthog is mean to other animals, and the warthog gets to be cleaned by the meerkats, as well as an early warning system for approaching predators. Go ahead and pause the video and type in what type of symbiosis you think this is. If you typed mutualism, you're right. If you didn't, go ahead and type it in now. You can pause the video if you need to. So this one, let me tell you what's happening here. That gray egg does not belong to the birds that built that nest. It belongs to a different bird. I believe it's a cuckoo bird. The cuckoo bird will find a nest that already has eggs in it, lay its own egg in it, but the baby cuckoo will grow faster than the eggs that it's in the nest with, and once it hatches, it will push all the other eggs out of the nest. If chicks have hatched, it will push the baby chicks out of the nest, so that both of the parents of this other species of bird spend all of their energy nourishing the cuckoo chick and none of their energy nourishing their own chick. So take a moment, pause the video, and write in that blank what type of symbiosis you think this is. If you said parasitism, you are correct. It's parasitism because the cuckoo bird benefits and the other species is harmed. Here is a picture of a whale's flipper. He has barnacles living on it. The whale is so big he does not notice the barnacles living there, but the barnacles, they get access to the more nourishment-rich waters deeper in the ocean rather than just being stuck to a rock. So what type of relationship do you believe this is? Go ahead and pause the video and type it in. If you said commensalism, you are correct. If you didn't say commensalism, go ahead and fix it. All right, so here's a horse, and there are some birds living with him. The birds are going to be eating the bugs not only off the horse, but as the horse walks around, he'll be kicking up more bugs, and the birds will eat them. And the horse, obviously, he doesn't have pests all over him. So what type of relationship do you think this is? Go ahead and pause it and type it in. If you said mutualism, you are correct. If you didn't, go ahead and fix it. All right, so here's a bee, and he is eating pollen from a flower. What type of relationship do you think this is? Go ahead and pause it and type it in. If you said mutualism, you are again correct. The flower gets its pollen spread around because some of the pollen molecules get stuck to the furry part of the bee. So when he lands on another flower, he's going to also be dropping off some of the first flower's pollen and so on. So he's pollinating. He's spreading around the pollen. And of course, the bee benefits because he gets the nectar. He can bring it back to his hive and feed his troop with. So they both win, mutualism. Okay, so here we have a monkey cleaning a cow. what do you think this relationship is? Go ahead and pause it and type it in. If you said mutualism, you're correct. The cow gets cleaned and the monkey gets to eat. Let me tell you what's happening in this picture. So a particular species of wasp lands on the back of this caterpillar, and using a modified stinger, he injects his eggs underneath the skin. The caterpillar continues to live with these baby wasps growing inside of him until a point that they're large enough that they can crawl out as larvae, and they eat the caterpillar while it's still living until they become too large and they burst out of his body and go off to make their own way. What type of relationship do you think this is? Go ahead and pause it and type it in. If you said parasitism, you are correct. The wasp benefits and the caterpillar is definitely harmed. Here we have a leech. You guys all know what a leech does. Go ahead and type in what kind of relationship you believe this is. Parasitism is correct. The leech is benefited while the human is harmed. All right, here we have a clownfish and an anemone. You guys know that a clownfish lives within an anemone, so I want you to tell me what type of relationship that you think this is. Most of the time, people think that this is mutualism because they think that the anemone benefits and also that the clownfish benefits. In reality, it's commensalism because the anemone is a filter feeder. It does not rely on that clownfish for food, but the clownfish gets the benefit of the protection of the anemone. So this is commensalism. And our last example, we have a shark with some fish. What type of relationship do you think this is? If you said mutualism, you are correct. The shark gets the benefit of these fish cleaning parasites off of him while the bell rings. While the fish get the benefit of not only eating his scraps, but also the protection of living with a shark. That should be the last response to that quiz that isn't a quiz. So if you will please submit that through Canvas, I would appreciate it. And if you guys have any questions, please feel free to go ahead and email me. I hope that you guys have a good day.